if you come at them saying they're wrong, people don't react to that very well when they're told they're wrong. The fists come up, the defense comes out. But if you're more discussionary and saying, well, why do you think this way? And why is that right? And if you can, I'll say, poke holes in basically what they are thinking in a discussionary and conversational way, it's a lot easier to make someone think, wow, maybe what they're saying is more accurate. Or even if you can just plant the seed of what you want them to think about, if you can even do that, that's a win in our book. So,
all right, welcome to our 52nd podcast, Renew Your Mind. In this series, we're talking with Jake Fousek, who attended the Summit Ministries Student Conference back in 2018 as a young adult. And with us in the room today, we have Pastor Jordan Chambers, our youth and family pastor. We have Senior Pastor Paul Gruenberg. We have Jake, of course, and we have myself, Dana Hall, as the moderator. So we're going to jump right back into, during our break, we had a lot of questions about the actual conference that we're going to pepper questions at Jake again. So I'm going to list off like 3 or 4 questions, Jake, and then I'll let you go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. So you started to tell us a little bit about the size of the classes. So if you could tell us about that. I also wondered if you kept in contact. Did you and Danielle keep in contact with Pastor Jordan, like throughout the conference? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but just kind of curious. And then I think the other thing I wanted to find out about we want to find out about, is that you have all these topics that you're talking about. So, and that's the purpose of the conference. But how do you talk about these very, topics that aren't easy to talk about, like in today's world? And we don't have to talk about that yet today, but maybe in our next podcast. So that's my spiel. So, Jake, how big are the classes?
The classes are about probably flirting with around the 100, 190, 110 range. That the class size is fairly substantial. They have a bunch of desks situated surrounding the small little stage for the speaker. So it's kind of like a big crowd and a tiny little stage, which is kind of a cool atmosphere. If I could show a picture, that'd be great. But
I had envisioned something the opposite of that, so that's why I wondered.
It's a very small stage. Probably 3 of these tables.
And it's just a podium. It's just like it's probably a 15-foot area.
Yeah,
it's smaller than what we even use in our church. Which, if any one of you listeners would recognize, how big our church atmosphere. It's smaller than where Pastor preaches from every Sunday.
It's probably half of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So pretty small, but the area surrounding is pretty. It's a pretty nice spot for.
Was it like an amphitheater or kind of?
It wasn't a big room. It was just so many desks in a small area. We were right next to each other. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was like high school again. It was the desks right next to each other. It was a very school like. It was a big classroom. It wasn't an amphitheater. It wasn't a gymnasium. It was a big classroom, and it's a nice little spot.
Okay. And you talked about all these topics that we don't really talk about in our day-to-day conversations, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know. How did the speakers start talking about these different topics?
Well, they kind of just hit us with their facts and how they thought about it, and we learned how to take things we liked or didn't like and listen to them rather than react to them. Which in a previous podcast I explained how that went, but we basically just were given the tools how to listen, and I think a majority of the students there, when they started to listen and we started to like actually hear what they were saying rather than my belief is right and how can I dig into him, is more of how is he perceiving this and how is he trying to convey it to me and the class. And I think once people started to understand, it was a very easy conversation, but you have to get over that hump of controversy and this discomfort, and that's just comes with the topics, and that's unfortunately a problem in today's society that we aren't able to do that as easily anymore. But I think they gave us the tools to do that.
So the beginning of the week with that controversial blow up, and then toward the end of the week, you found yourself to be more discussion oriented,
Yes.
not necessarily trying to make your point, but more of a discussion about a particular topic that you were interested in.
Yes, that's pretty much right on. That's right. What that was their goal, and that was what they wanted from us and wanted us to see, because that's how you can convince someone that their view might not be accurate, or their point that they're trying to make might not be right. And if you come at them saying they're wrong, people don't react to that very well when they're told they're wrong. People are, the fists come up, the defense comes out. But if you're more discussionary and saying, well, why do you think this way? And why is that right? And if you can, I'll say, poke holes in basically what they are thinking in a discussionary and conversational way, it's a lot easier to make someone think, wow, maybe what they're saying is more accurate, or maybe I'll think about that. And even if you can just plant the seed of what you want them to think about, if you can even do that, that's a win in our book. So
yeah, it's not even really poking holes. It's asking a question to make them think
about
at a
what
deeper
It's
level.
more like realizing what
Yeah.
holes already are there.
Right.
Because most people believe things without really thinking it through. But once you start asking someone questions, then they have to ask that question to themselves before they can answer it.
Exactly.
And then when they realize there's no answer, or the answer they give isn't sufficient for them, that's when they start re-questioning.
Right.
It's a series of assumptions that we all hold to in regard to a topic.
Yeah.
And so if you know the truth and somebody is working off of assumptions, then you can begin to say, well, you say this, okay, you say that the square peg is round, but it has no 90-degree corners to it. What does that say about your peg? So you're looking at the assumptions that they're making, and a lot of those assumptions may be false. And so if you bring the facts, right? Well, there aren't that many abortions every year. Well, at its peak, it was over 100 million or a million abortions every year. And wow, I only thought there were, 100 or 200. And all of a sudden, they're faced with some facts, which pokes a hole in their assumption.
Right. And that's one of the things I've come to learn actually after Summit, because of what Summit did for me and what I learned. It made me expand my what I would learn about and what I'd look into. And one of the big things I've learned is like the facts don't care about people's feelings or anybody's feelings. And when in that case, like it's not about worrying about how people feel. Like with the abortion debate, it doesn't matter how you feel. Millions of children are dying every year because of this tragedy that we've made okay in our society. And that's a fact. But unfortunately, people don't like to hear or don't like to see the pictures, and they get all their feelings to get hurt. Oh, I don't want to see that. But it's a fact that that's happening and that's occurring. And it doesn't matter how you feel. That's what's going on. And that's a big thing that I've come away with.
So I'm going to put you on the spot then.
All right.
One of the assumptions that people make is that at conception, there's one full cell, and then it divides into two, then it divides into four, and it keeps this division process. Jake, I don't believe that until the third trimester that it's a real person.
Okay. Well, you said it was a cell, right?
Yes.
What are we made of?
Cells.
Cells. So how is that any different from us? Cells are living.
True, but there's no mouth, there's no ears, there's no eyes.
Okay, so people with deformities in our society that are born, are they just not human? Are they not,
Oh, this guy's good. I really like that. And that's the idea of what you're learning, right? I have a false assumption that a couple of cells is not life. And you have just spoken to me about how we're made of cells.
Yep.
Oh, that was really smooth.
Thank you.
What I'd like to know, you mentioned before that you made some close friendships that you
Yes.
still have today.
Yep.
Where did those friendships happen? Was it when you're sitting there chatting in the desk, or was it more like at night when you're talking with people, or you meet someone at lunch and all of a sudden you hit it off? Or
Well, one of my I have 3 friends I can name right off the bat. My good friend Sam, that he's probably one of my closest friends, even still to this day. He was my roommate in the dorm area, I'll call it. But
And where's he live?
He lives in Germany.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So he lives pretty far away, but we slept like right. He was right above me, but we kind of just knew each other, and we kind of were just there.
Hit it
But as
off,
the week
yeah.
went on, we started like goofing off and started having some
He's
fun.
a goofball too.
Yeah. And he was a big fan of my artwork I used to make. I
sure.
still do. I did my graphic design stuff, and I'm sure you all know. He would saw some of that stuff, and he really liked it, and that was part of what hit us off. And we would eat lunch together, and we basically hung out in our little group, but it was mainly me and him that were really close. So he's one of my closer friends. And then I made a couple other friends. My friend Hannah, she was I think 16 at the time. But she was on the younger end, but her sister as well. I became good friends with her.
And they live in.
Hannah lives in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and her sister lives in Southern Michigan. But I think she's moved. We haven't talked in a while, but I do know that. So
Yeah.
Well, I think, is there anything else you want to share with us about the experience while you were there?
Well, one of the best experiences is I remember earlier in the week, there was a few guys that were from Colorado that were my roommates, and they were runners. And for you guys that know, I did cross country in high school, and I was like, oh boy, here, because my competitive, everybody knows I'm a very competitive person. I'm like, all right, let's go. And they woke me up very early in the morning, and I was not too happy about it. But they were not taking no as the answer. It was I don't remember. It was 5 a.m, and we'd go on a run, and I thought I'd be right with them. But Colorado, that thin air,
Yeah.
we got outside, and I was, oh my goodness, they were burning me. But when we went on a run to the top of a mountain that was overlooking our little town, Manitou Springs, and it was a beautiful. It was nothing is like it, and as annoyed as I was, I remember that they wanted me to get up and go for a run. When we got to the top of the mountain, I'm like, I'm doing this every morning, and we in fact did that every morning. We'd go for a run. We'd go to that top of that mountain and just sit and look at like the sunrise, and it was beautiful.
Cool.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's a
We would
great
see deer
experience.
more often than not. We would see a deer, and we saw with their fawns, and it was phenomenal.
Wow, that's really cool. All right, anything else? Anything else you want to share?
What about the fun stuff? I mean, we talked a lot about the stuff you learn in
Yes.
the classroom
Oh,
setting.
true, yeah.
You had free time. I don't know. Was it like after supper or something?
After supper, sometimes during the day, it just depended. It depended on the week. We had a schedule, and we had free time at different times in the day, different times of the week. But free time, we basically just got to go explore the town. They were very insistent that we brought someone with us, obviously.
Sure, like a buddy system.
Yes,
type
a buddy
thing, yeah.
system. But that also made memories in and of itself, because we would go into little stores, because every store there is a little local store, and they have unique things that you'll never find anywhere else. And that was fun. We got to get ice cream, a very good ice cream. I don't think I've ever had anything that good in my life. But it was just fun. It was like hanging out with your friends down at the mall somewhere, like in Traverse City. But it was in a beautiful scenery with beautiful, everything. It's hard to explain how great it was. I remember one of the times we went into a beef jerky shop, and they had so many types of jerky that I've never even heard of. Like kangaroo, shark, cobra. They had it all.
Cobra jerky.
Yes, they had cobra jerky.
That's great.
And we all bought one, and we were taking turns, and we're like, "This is great. This is terrible." But that was one of the many moments that I had there. And those moments all together made it one of the best experiences of my life, and I'll never forget. So
That's
That's
great.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, with all that hard work and
definitely hard work.
yeah, and
Definitely hard
have
work.
that fun on top of it. And I'm so impressed that you got up early to run to the top of the
I am
mountain,
too.
because that kind of says it all.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Well, we will wrap up this session. And for you listeners, we are at the First United Methodist Church of Gaylord, Michigan. We have a traditional service at 9 a.m. and a contemporary at 10:45 a.m. if you'd like to join us in person. You can also view us via Facebook or YouTube. And if you have any questions at all, we're at 989-732-5380, or you can contact us through our website. Thanks, everyone.